Wonderful. And we're broadcasting. I'm going all in today with the orange and the pumpkin and the spiders.
Woo. Taking a little longer than usual, Jen, but I think if you wait another minute, you could start.
Okay. Must be a busy Zoom day out there.
Yeah.
Lunchtime.
Everybody's jockeying to get through the virtual door.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to get started because I think a lot of our attendees have seen my introduction before. So welcome everybody to the last session of our first virtual and 47th annual Environmental Congress. Thank you all for being with us all month long as we sought to bring you programming that recreates the in-person gatherings that we love to have so very much with you, but was just not safe to do in person this year. So we're very pleased to have been able to gather this way and speak about pressing environmental matters facing New Jersey and to share some of the local action that you have done and are continuing to do. We tweet at ANJEC Tweets, so if you're on Twitter, please join us there and join us in the conversation using the hashtag EnviroCongress. A little bit of housekeeping. There are some things that are a little different with this session today than the guidelines that we've been following for previous sessions. So if you have a technical question, if you're having problems with the Zoom or your video or your audio, you can go ahead and use the chat at the bottom of your screen. So when you move your cursor and you scroll over the bottom of your screen, you'll have a pop-up that is chat. We used to use Q&A, but we're using chat today. You can go ahead and type that in there. Otherwise, we're going to ask people to hold their questions till the end of our presentations today, and then go ahead and raise your hand. So under the participants link, there is, if you click on participants at the bottom of your screen, or depending on what view you're in, it may pop up at the top of your screen, you'll get a sidebar window that will pop up. And then there's an option on there that says raise hand. So if you click on that, then you'll go ahead and raise your hand. If you're having trouble with that, we can also use the chat and staff will read your questions. We'd love to hear your voices and get a little bit of networking in. So that's why we're asking people to use that raise hand function, and we'll go ahead and unmute you and you can ask your question. If you're having extreme technical difficulty with regard to this session for Environmental Congress, you can go ahead and call Elizabeth Ritter, ANJEC's Deputy Director. That's her phone number there, and she'll troubleshoot with you. A note that all sessions are being recorded and will be posted at a later date at ANJEC's YouTube channel. A link will be sent to all attendees, and you should have already received links from some of the workshops that happened earlier in the month. So go ahead and keep your eye out on your email for that, or you can always visit ANJEC's YouTube channel just by going to YouTube. I would like to thank our sponsors who have made this Congress and previous Congresses possible. Without their support, we would not be able to bring this program to you at a competitive price, and most certainly not as robustly as we have been able to do so this year and in previous years. These companies work throughout New Jersey, engaging New Jersey's environment on various levels. We are pleased to be able to hear from Atlantic City Electric this afternoon, who will share with us some of their habitat work. I also want to offer a sincere thanks to our foundations, from the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation all the way to the Stone Foundation, as well as our nonprofit partners. Without them, we would not be able to bring you not only Environmental Congress, but programming throughout the year. Our programming throughout the year has been quite robust, and we appreciate your support and your attendance. I was doing a little math last week and looked at our program attendance, which has mostly been virtual because ANJEC, like the rest of New Jersey and most of the country, went into a virtual system of working in early March. But 1,000 environmental commissioners and local officials have joined us in our programming this year. We want to thank you, despite the challenges that 2020 has brought to you, for continuing to work to protect your local environment and New Jersey's natural resources. These are ANJEC staff and our fluffies, our kitties, our puppies, our laptops coming to you from our living rooms, our dining rooms, our kitchens. We are still fully functional as ANJEC. We're not in the office as much as we used to be, but you know how to get in touch with us because, like I said, 1,000 of you have attended our programs. The best email, if you have a general question about the environment or ANJEC, is info@anjec.org, and you'll see that appear at the end of my slides, info@anjec.org, or you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Those are the social media platforms that we use the most. We're starting to break into Instagram as well, so if you have some wonderful fall foliage photos to share with us, go ahead and tag us on Instagram as well. We would love that. So before I give up the podium, one more word, the same word I've been saying all month long, and it seems like for 2 years at this point in time, is plastics. And I say this word because you environmental commissioners have worked tirelessly on passing 130 ordinances throughout the state in the past 2 years. When we gathered together in October of 2018, there were two ordinances passed in the state regarding single-use plastics. You have done yeoman's work, superhero work, to pass 130 ordinances to ban a variety of single-use plastics throughout the state. And because of you, we have the strongest plastic pollution reduction law in the country, sitting on Governor Murphy's desk, waiting for him to take action. By our math, he has until November 9th to do so. So that's a whole nother countdown that we're working on. He has not yet signed that piece of legislation. When I last spoke to his senior policy staff, they were quick to point out that the governor issued statements to several press venues in support of the legislation, but that was 35, 37 days ago, and there has been no action yet. We know this phone number, the messages are often full. We think that's a good thing. Please keep calling, keep trying. You can go ahead and put the number in your contacts and try it every day, 609-292-6000. When we know something about this legislation, we will share that with you. The only thing we do know right now is that the polystyrene industry is putting a lot of money and a lot of effort into lobbying the governor's office, asking him not to sign or to conditionally veto the legislation. So we need to combat that. Yes, you have passed 130 ordinances. Yes, he knows there's local support for this, but we have to keep the pressure on because we're talking about multi-billion-dollar industries that are lobbying the governor's office right now, asking him not to take action. So please, please, please call that number. We know there are some issues with the number, but please just keep trying. And with that, we are 4 days out from a very big election. There obviously is a presidential election, but there are congressional elections, county elections, committee elections. So we want to encourage you to fill out your ballot. All registered voters in New Jersey have received a ballot. If you have not received your ballot in the mail, call your county board of elections. There's lots of information about voting in New Jersey at nj.gov/state/elections. If you have your ballot at home and you have not submitted it yet, please complete your ballot and place it in a county ballot box. Again, there are links at nj.gov/state/elections to get information on where those ballot boxes are located. This graphic comes to you from the League of Women Voters. We are very proud to have partnered with them this year to get out the vote and to help people understand their voting options this year would in a very complicated year. We're voting differently this year. So please do vote. Please do place your ballot in a county ballot box. It's getting a little tight on the timeline now to place it in a blue USPS box at this point in time. Also, I want to thank you for your donations. Many of you have given donations, small and large, to ANJEC throughout the month while we're offering you Congress. We very much appreciate your support. Your dollars go to help us continue to bring programming such as Environmental Congress, to work with you one-on-one, and to obviously offer programs throughout the year on topics such as plastic pollution, electric vehicles, stormwater management, climate change, and more. All of your donations continue to go to help us continue to support you and your municipality to protect and restore New Jersey's environment and natural resources. So we know that there are many competing needs this year, and that money is tight and it is a challenging year. But if you can, we'd ask you to please consider giving a donation to ANJEC to help us continue to offer programming and one-on-one support to you throughout the year of 2021. So we are pleased to offer our final session for Environmental Congress today, and we have some stellar representatives of local environmental commissions throughout the state, and we will turn over the microphone to them shortly, and then we look forward to hearing from you as well about the projects that you're working on or planning to work on in the new year in your communities. I'd also like to invite you to join us to look what's growing in New Jersey in terms of beer, wine, and spirits. We've partnered with these 3 New Jersey companies just in time for Thanksgiving and the other end of year holidays. And so we invite you to join us on November 13th. This is a fundraiser for ANJEC. There's the sign up link there, or you can find it on our webpage. These businesses are not only delivering Jersey Fresh products to us, well, Jersey Fresh I think is a trademark name, but Jersey products to us using Jersey water. They are also good community partners, and they have implemented a bevy of conservation practices regarding water conservation and stormwater management. So we look forward to hearing from them on November 13th and hope that you can come join us from the comfort and warmth of your home with your beverage of choice. We have some additional programming with key partners that we're offering through the end of this year. Yes, we are keeping the faith, thinking that 2020 will end. So we are planning programs in November and December. We invite you, particularly our friends in North Jersey, to join us on November 12th and 13th for the Northwest New Jersey Rivers Conference. If you are interested in learning more about brownfields redevelopment, so abandoned, underutilized, potentially chemically contaminated sites in your community and how you can revitalize those sites and bring economic benefit and environmental cleanup, please join us on December 2nd. And if you are interested in learning more about stormwater ordinances, the registration link for that will be announced on our website shortly. That's also on December 2nd at 6 p.m. in partnership with the Watershed Institute, who I'd like to point out also has a full week of stormwater webinars starting next week. I will say that in their wisdom, they are not doing it on Tuesday and encouraging us all to vote and get active. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, check out the schedule on their website. With that, I'd like to thank you for being with us today and for being with us throughout the month. Encourage you to go back and watch some of the sessions that we held on Thursdays and Fridays earlier in October. Encourage you to follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And if you have any questions or you want to reach out to us, info@anjec.org is the best way to do it. So with that, I will turn this over to Michelle Gaynor on ANJEC staff, and she is going to introduce our next presenter and take over from there. So thank you, Michelle.
Hi, Jen. Thank you. Thank you all for being here for our very last session. Before we start with our three very informative presentations from our EC members, we're going to have just a very brief presentation from Chris Cavallero. He is a Senior External Affairs Specialist at Atlantic City Electric, or ACE. We're pleased to have our longtime supporter, Atlantic City Electric, as a bronze sponsor of the ANJEC Congress. He is here with examples of ACE's current habitat remediation and wildlife protection initiatives. So Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Michelle. I just want to make sure if you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Excellent. All right, thanks. So thanks again for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk with everyone. I have been with ACE going on 3 years now, and right after I started, I was given the task of being our new liaison between ACE and ANJEC, which has just been great the entire time. So I really am appreciative to your organization, for everybody I've dealt with. It's been great. Really enjoyed the meeting with everybody and getting to develop these relationships, and especially for opportunities like this. So we've had a long-standing relationship with ANJEC. I'm glad to keep that tradition going forward. In the past, we've done a lot of volunteer events and opportunities. Unfortunately, with kind of the craziness now, we've not been able to do as many in-person volunteer events, but we've been able to still do a lot of stuff kind of behind the scenes and still out into the community. So real quick on us, this slide here is just really our service territory in South Jersey. We're one of 3 major electric utilities in New Jersey. This is our service territory in the blue, kind of going from the west to the east. And then we are 5 years into a merger with Exelon. This is our corporate policy. The reason I wanted to put this here is mainly because, when we did this merger with Exelon, we became part of the 2nd largest energy company in the United States. And a lot of times when that happens, some folks get nervous that, hey, you have a good relationship in New Jersey with our stakeholders and our customers. As you get bigger, sometimes people feel that we lose that. But the reason I put this here is that, if anything, we've gotten stronger. We've really changed our approach to the better, I believe. So we're really doing everything we did and then some now that we have Exelon behind us. A big part of this now is climate change. It's one of the things that we're currently working on. We do have this new Exelon Foundation where we are donating $20 million to startup companies with a strict focus on climate change and ways to go about that. So that is spreading across all of our service territories in Chicago, Baltimore, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., Wilmington, Delaware. So it's one of the big things that we're starting to see with Exelon being behind us in ways that they've been able to help us out. So we're appreciative of that. Another thing that we're doing now is this project. This is a transmission project that's stretching from Egg Harbor Township to Atlantic City. The photos I have here are, we were unable to do certain parts of this in protected wetlands via helicopter construction is something that we like to do. We were not able to in all areas to do the helicopter construction. What we were able to do was come in and plant Spartina plugs, over 18,000, which is basically a wetland grass. That was something that we were, to put in to help mitigate the damage that, may have occurred through this project. And it's something that we're going to keep an eye on going forward for the next couple of years to make sure that what we planted stays and that there is no long-term damage to these areas. We always try and keep on that. Fortunately, this was kind of the one project that we had that ran into wetlands. Usually we have some more stuff going on, but with COVID, some of our stuff did get delayed, but this is one that we were working on actively during that time frame. And then another part of what we're doing is our animal protection, and you may see it if you're south here, you might start seeing a lot of these osprey nests that are built along our poles. And this is a proactive approach of what we've done. We've installed these along a lot of our areas where we're seeing ospreys that were nesting on our facilities. That being unsafe for them, we wanted to be able to create a safe habitat for them for when they want to come to our poles. We already have structures in place for them. So we've kind of spread that across the Jersey Shore. So if you're out there, you might see a lot of that. And then what we have here, just kind of protective devices for our equipment. These little plastic pieces that you might see, they go over top of some of the conductors that we have that may electrocute or kill any type of animals that may come in contact with them. So we're doing a real big proactive outreach now to get those out there to really kind of stop any type of danger to these animals and birds that are coming in contact with our facilities. So again, we were unable to do a lot of volunteer outreach like I normally do, but I wanted to come on and just kind of say we're not stopping our efforts. We're still getting out there to do a lot of the work that we normally do to kind of keep our environment healthy, keep our animals healthy and safe, and really continue the good work that we've been doing in partnership with ANJEC. So I wanted to say thank you again for the opportunity that you've given us and for being able to come on here and do my quick spiel. So thank you again, and I appreciate it. And if you ever need anything from us going forward, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Okay, so we are going to start with our first presenter. It's Isla Vasallo. She is on the Evesham Township. She's an Evesham Township resident for over 20 years. She's chair of the Evesham Environmental Commission since 2019. Ms. Vasallo helped to develop the township's environmental resource inventory and open space and recreation plan from 2014 to 2017. She served on the Evesham Township Planning Board for the last 2 years. She has served on the Marlton Farmers Market Committee. She is also active in the community group known as Evesham's Green Team. Ms. Vasallo was instrumental in Evesham Township's obtaining bronze certification in Sustainable Jersey program in 2013 and 16, and silver certification in 2019. In 2020, she received Power of One Award from Evesham Township's Mayor and Council. A systems analyst by education, Ms. Vasallo has made it a practice to constantly educate herself in sustainability and the environment. She is an alma. She is also part of the Cloud Institute for Sustainability Education, New Jersey Learns program. She is a Rutgers environmental steward and recently completed the Rutgers Green Infrastructure Champions course. Isla will discuss best practices, new or tried and true practices that support a healthy EC at this time, pandemic-related changes that have provided some benefit, such as site plan online and virtual workshops. So if Isla can now share her screen.
Okay, hi. Thank you, Michelle, for the introduction. Can everyone hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Again, my name is Isla Vasallo, and I'm chair of the Evesham Township Environmental Commission. I'll be presenting today with Ann Marchioni and Neil Hendrickson on how our environmental commissions have adjusted and thrived during the pandemic. This slide gives you some context of the municipalities that we represent, where they're located in New Jersey, and the size and population of each of our towns. Ann is from Caldwell, and Neil is from Reddington. And again, I'm from Evesham Township. Evesham Township is better known as Marlton. We're located in Burlington County, exit 4 off the New Jersey Turnpike. There are about 45,000 people in our town, and it's about 29 square miles. 2 items of interest that you might want to know is that the southern portion of our township is in the Pinelands. And as Michelle mentioned, our township has been certified in the Sustainable Jersey program since 2013, and we're currently certified at the silver level. Our Evesham Township Environmental Commission was established in 1978 with 7 members, 2 alternates, and we have a liaison from our town council that attends our monthly meetings. 1 member of our environmental commission is also a member of our planning board. So today I'm going to be sharing how our environmental commission adjusted and adapted to the new normal, and also those practices we use to sustain our commission. Back in the spring of this year, the world transitioned to online everything, and our commission was supported by our township in transitioning to online meetings. That required our township to have the software, a moderator for the township, from the township to run the meetings, and updates to the township webpage to provide the online links for our environmental commission meetings. As organizations transitioned to online, our environmental commissioners took advantage of the online workshops and programs. We had commissioners complete the ANJEC Environmental Commissioner Training, Rutgers Green Infrastructure Champions course, which I highly recommend. Rutgers Environmental Stewards Program also recommended, and webinars on the new stormwater management rules. Prior to the pandemic, we discussed the ability for our commission to set up committees, and specifically a site plan review committee. We now have in practice that site plan review committee, which reviews site plans that are referred to the commission. So when it is not possible for our entire commission to review a site plan at one of its scheduled meetings, the committee recommends to makes recommendations based on their review of the site plan, which is provided to and disseminated by the chair of the commission. In adapting to the changes due to COVID, we were fortunate that many of our initiatives for 2020 could be accommodated outdoors. In April of 2020, we pursued and later received an ANJEC open space grant. And over the summer, we examined areas in the township where green infrastructure could be implemented. And then in looking ahead and getting a handle on 2021, we've been educating ourselves on the new requirements associated with the stormwater management rules and how it will impact our local ordinances. So I have a few pictures here to just demonstrate a little what we've been up to as far as the ANJEC open space grant and our green infrastructure. Through the ANJEC grant, we're adding native plugs to a wildflower patch at one of our parks, and that picture is on the bottom left, on the left-hand side of the slide. On Monday, we're actually planting 350 plugs, which is just getting under the wire for fall planting. And we are also, as part of the ANJEC grant, performing trail maintenance on a local trail. Over the summer, we walked the trail, and as you can see on the left-hand side, the middle picture, it's very overgrown, so we have our work cut out for us. But we are continuing maintenance, and we're also, as maintenance during the fall, and we're also putting together a report on the longer term objectives to get the trail back into shape. With respect to green infrastructure, over the summer, we met with the township, Rutgers, and I'm sure a lot of you know Dr. Abrupta, and the Pinelands Preservation Alliance to examine areas in the township where green infrastructure could be implemented. And we just recently helped back in the beginning of October with the maintenance of 2 rain gardens. And these are at the entrance to one of our water treatment plants. And in the lower right-hand corner of the slide, you can see a before and after picture of one of the outflows. And one of the lessons learned that I've come to know after many years is when you do any outdoor projects, always, always, always think about maintenance as part of your planning. So adjusting and adapting to our new normal has been important, but I wanted to mention a few things, a few practices that we use that are important to sustain a commission. We've recently put together an informational packet for commissioners. It was originally created for new appointees, but the information packet has become a helpful resource. It contains the members' names, their terms, our meeting dates. It also contains the powers and duties for our commission associated with our online, with our ordinance. And also that ordinance makes a reference to a New Jersey state statute. So we have that information in there. It contains links to our key resources in town, including environmental resource inventory, an open space and recreation plan, and vision docs. There are many, many good mapping tools now online, as well as informational databases. So we try to include that, links to those products when we can. And of course, we recommend annual training through ANJEC for our new appointees and also seasoned commissioners. So we have that, that information in our informational packet as well. We found it helpful to set goals and objectives for the year. They can be referred to during the year to make sure that the Environmental Commission is staying on track, and they can also help serve as a basis for our annual report. Of course, we all know that establishing and maintaining relationships are key ingredients to any organization. They provide the framework upon which good communication occurs, work gets accomplished, and an organization can grow and adapt. Some of our relationships include, of course, ANJEC, Friends of the Black Run Preserve, Rutgers, Pinelands Preservation Alliance, Evesham Green Team, and our council liaison. We found it's important to understand the township's budgeting process and timeline and submit an annual budget that reflects our goals and objectives. And then to also provide a written report at the end of the year to communicate our successes and accomplishments. And a recommendation, if you want to take this a step further and ask your township if they can set aside some time at a council meeting to allow you to also present to them and the community at large. I think it's important. Sometimes we forget in the hustle and bustle of doing all the good work that we want to do to celebrate successes. And I think that's important to make sure your members celebrate your successes. In my opinion, what makes an environmental commission thrive are the people, the dedicated and passionate commissioners who get into the weeds, so to speak, with site plans, who are interested in learning new ways of doing things like green infrastructure, who bring their talents and expertise to meetings and programs. The commissioners serve to remind our community of the importance of open space, green infrastructure, stormwater management, the natural resources on which we all depend, and so much more. And an environmental commission is not successful on its own. It requires support and involvement from the mayor, town council, and the township, and of course our residents, and we are fortunate to have that support in Evesham. Thank you again. Thank you to ANJEC for inviting me to share my experiences. Thank you for listening, and please feel free to contact me.
Thank you very much, Isla. That was great. Next, we have Ann Marchioni. Ann, if you could share your screen with us.
Yeah.
Ann is a former middle school educator ANJEC Development Director and Earthshare New Jersey trustee. She also co-chairs the Caldwell and Essex County Environmental Commissions. She is an ANJEC volunteer, Sustainable Jersey Hero. She's a member of the Green Team at St. Aloysius and has a master's degree in environmental studies. And we'll discuss protecting the planet in a pandemic, how an EC can provide information and helpful actions to remind their residents not to forget the environment, as well as collaborating with other organizations. Anne?
Thank you, Michelle, and thanks to all the ANJEC people who are on the call and everybody else. Okay, Caldwell Environmental Commission, April 2020. We had our meeting by Zoom. That was a novel experience, brave new world for everybody. Just to FYI about Caldwell, it's the home of Grover Cleveland birthplace. If you haven't ever been there, that's a wonderful experience. And also Caldwell University and Grover Cleveland Park. We're very teeny, as you can see the wonderful slide that Isla provided for us. Okay, so we had a change in plans. The Caldwell Environmental Commission has been encouraging our residents. We're kind of small, so this is something that people can do in their backyards to plant pollinator gardens. Dr. Doug Tallamy came 2 years ago, and we had a wonderful presentation in person by him to promote his book, Bringing Nature Home. At that time, we distributed native chemical-free plants for those people attending the presentation. We did the same last year, and we hope to do the same this year, but COVID have had a different time, changed all of that. Our April meeting was conducted by Zoom. We came up with the idea of having Dr. Tallamy return via Zoom to promote his new book, Nature's Best Hope, Backyard National Parks. And he was available, but we had a little bit of an issue. The Caldwell Environmental Commission has a policy of not charging for events. And after researching his fee, which was a bit pricey, we decided to enlist some local organizations to help us. The West Caldwell Environmental Commission. And let me just see if I minimize this to get rid of that, that's great. Okay, the West Caldwell Environmental Commission, Kiwanis of West Essex Caldwell, and Morgan Farm. These are organizations within the area, and they all help to pay his fee. And what happened is then they decided they could notify their members of the program. And by the way, I have a commissioner who has a colleague that does wonderful, wonderful flyers. So we're very lucky to have that lady help us with the flyers. Now, how do we publicize this? So we reached out to master gardeners, environmental stewards. We also reached out to garden clubs, anybody that we could think of that might be interested in this program. Native Plant Society of Essex County, Green Teams of Caldwell, members of Ministerial Association of West Essex, the schools too. This is an important resource. This was certainly something that they could attend if they chose to. Beekeepers of New Jersey, New Jersey Landscapers Association. All these organizations were encouraged to share the information with their members. And we were very lucky. Okay, now the Zoom aspect, as with Isla's town, the mayor is now the IT person in addition to the mayor of the town. He handles the Zoom programs. And a gentleman, Bob Colizio, were responsible for this. All participants were sent a link and they could email their questions to Dr. Tallamy prior to the event. That was very helpful. Here's a quote from the mayor as we got closer to the date. And please let Doug know that we have 1,000 people have registered for the event. That's our max. I can send a report later. Well, actually, it worked out to be more than 1,000 people. I actually they sent me the report, and it was 1,300 people had registered. And it actually, we ended up with probably a little bit over 1,000 people attending, which was just blew me away here. So what does he do? What does Dr. Tallamy recommend? Okay, what is the Backyard National Park? He encourages people to help climate change and the decline of living creatures by enlisting their own backyards as a site for regeneration of the natural world through the use of native plants and trees. Just an FYI, on the Caldwell website under Environmental Commission, we have a list of nurseries that carry chemical-free native plants and trees, if that would be helpful for some of you. Okay, we have collected 39 pictures of people's national backyard parks. We asked them to send that to us, and they are also on the Caldwell website, including national parks from national parks, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, Texas, and Tennessee. So this one right here is one of our own commissioners, Jane Kinkle. She went out the next week and bought a whole new slew of plants for her yard. So this is Caldwell's National Park. So I was very pleased with that. Okay, here we have some more examples. Chattanooga, Tennessee, Ocean View, Delaware, and there's some more on the website. So we were thrilled with this response to his talk. Okay, we tried to go with the program of providing information for our residents. And what happened is, because we couldn't do it in person, we decided, of course, as all of us are doing, the Zoom way to do it. Okay, we partnered with Essex County Environmental Commission and ANJEC. This is New Jersey's Clean Energy Program. And you individual commissions can set up their own workshop, and they'd be, very happy to help you with that. And here's the person who would do that for you. Okay, in addition, Caldwell is a recipient, of a $20,000 grant from Sustainable Jersey for green infrastructure. And we were able to complete one rain garden as part of that with the help of the Rutgers Water Resources Department and the Caldwell Department of Public Works. And prior to this, in July, we had a short presentation by Dr. Abrupta. He seems to be a very popular person these days. Do a small presentation to our council and any residents who were interested. So that was another way of outreach to our local population. So this is our final product here. I'm really excited. It's beautiful, and we've had some rain, so I think I should go up and see how it did. Okay. In addition, we have partnered with the Congregation of Agudath Israel. They have a pretty active green team at their synagogue, and so they've offered 2 presentations. We sponsored one in April on surviving the pandemic, what to do for the environment. And this one was very interesting. I had not heard of this person before. A different kind of heroism combating climate change by what we eat. And this gentleman was very emphatic of how hard this is to do. We are a society that's based on meat, and he feels that even if you cut out meat just for breakfast and lunch, that we could have an impact. And of course, meatless Mondays would also be good. And I have to tell you, the one thing that he said at the end of his presentation, which was on October 14th, he said, get 50 people to vote. So I thought that was to vote, in other words, find an environmental candidate and vote for that person to help with climate change. So I thought that was really good advice. So if you would like to do that, go get 50 people to vote. That would be wonderful. Okay, we're also in charge of the Caldwell Pollinator Garden, and I have to give a shout out to ANJEC for that, because we have received 2 open space grants to work on this. The trees that we have there and the meadow was provided by one open space grant, and then another open space grant. We have a wonderful sign that tells everybody what's happening there, and we have brochures that we give out. Okay, this is an area that is very unique to Caldwell. We are totally built out. So this actually was a redo. All right, it was the site of the Knights of Columbus of Caldwell, and the town decided to raise the building. And of course, I decided that, well, if the Environmental Commission could be involved, how could we do this? So they were just going to put a park there. And I thought, that's when I learned about the plight of the pollinators. And I thought, well, let's see, if I get a little bit of money, maybe the town would go along with having a pollinator garden. So thank you, ANJEC. You made this all happen. So now we have a beautiful, beautiful pollinator garden in the middle of Caldwell, downtown Caldwell. We've received a Blue Ribbon Award from the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society for it. And we are also a National Wildlife Federation certified wildlife habitat. So we were very, very pleased with the progress there. And even though it's a pandemic, now many of our volunteers are master gardeners. And I have to tell you that we decided to make it safe that we would, and we all enjoyed going together. Believe me, that was fun. So now we go individually and we are masked, but we have seen wonderful, wonderful pollinators. And let me go back. The goldfinches have been wonderful also. So we are certainly enjoying this. And we thank all of the volunteers who go every single week to work on this garden. And finally, if you'd like to contact me, this is my contact information, amarchio44@gmail.com. And last but not least, you know, my head's with the pollinators. So there is a bill in New Jersey, the state legislature. We're trying to get Assembly Speaker Coughlin to bring it out of committee to be voted upon. And so I've put up his information also. So if you could knock on his door, that would be wonderful. Right after you've called the governor too, to support the plastics bill. So again, I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you. I thank all my commissioners. They're a wonderful group of people. They put up with me. And also thank the mayor and council and my council liaison. She is great. She, you know, by the way, she takes things like this as well as the plastic bill to remind people at the public meetings to do this also. So I think that's about it. So thank you for including me in this presentation.
Thank you so much, Anne. It makes me want to take a walk through Caldwell in the spring and summer of next year.
Yay.
It really it looks beautiful what you've done in the commission. So next up is Neil Hendrickson, PhD. Neil is recently retired from Bartlett Tree Research Labs, where he served as their Northeast technical specialist for over 20 years. Neil is a New Jersey licensed tree expert and is tree risk assessment qualified. He now serves as chair of the Reddington Township, New Jersey Environmental Commission and Tree Advisory Committee, is a member of the Reddington Open Space Advisory Board, Hunterdon County Shade Tree Commission, and is on the executive board of the New Jersey Shade Tree Federation. He received his BS in forestry from Cook College, Rutgers, his MS in forest science from the University of New Hampshire, and his PhD in silviculture and forest ecology from Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. His work experience is Bartlett Tree Research Labs, Tamke Tree Experts, an instructor in forestry. There's a Master's of Natural Resource Management program, Simon Fraser University in British Columbia, Canada. Neil will talk about finding important goals to pursue, getting organized, and networking with those who can help. There you go, Neil.
Good afternoon. I'm hoping my screen is up. Do I have a visible screen?
Yes,
Okay, and you can hear me.
yes.
Okay, so a little background on Reddington. You probably know it from the Festival of Ballooning. That's what Reddington is best known for. So this is, and this year it hasn't been there, but this is in front of my house. They do tend to land in front of my neighbor's house and in people's driveways. But this year, as you all know, we would not recommend 2020. The balloon festival didn't come off. So in fact, this is a good time to talk about how we are adjusting and thriving. Well, it's been, Isla alluded to this a little bit. We're adjusting. Virtual meetings, I love them, except for these sorts of things. How many times, for those of you who run virtual meetings, do you say, would you please mute yourself? Would you please unmute yourself? Can you hear me? Send me the link. That just happened. I can't connect. I'll call in. And can you please identify yourself for all those people who call in that you'd like to know who they were? We're doing fine with that, though. But a little more about Reddington. Not every town has a buffalo farm. We do, a couple of 100 acres. We have a very nice community garden. and on one of our open space properties. Behind it, if you can see back here, there's a small shed and a forestry nursery. So seedlings we have acquired over the years that we don't give away, we plant out there for planting, usually along riparian buffers or to block views along our hiking trails of people's houses. Now, I don't know how many Walmarts actually pick up and leave town. You don't usually hear about it. And it was a great concern, but Reddington was lucky to capitalize on it. And now it's a big grow center. So some things have a way of working out. What's really distinguishes Reddington, I believe, is the amount of open space and preserved land. What you'll see there, and I'll blow up the legend a little, how much open space there is. I believe the number's around 9,000 plus acres. What that translates to in this picture is you see all those little numbers. Those are the trailheads for our trails. So the trails are used by people and horses, and we have a little over 40 miles of trails, which I think is pretty amazing. You don't have to go very far to go for a very pleasant walk. That's one that was, I had seen a for sale sign and called him, and he had said, I'm not interested. 6 months later, he called up and said, in Reddington Township, I'll give it to you. So what you see there is late summer tick-seed sunflower and the trail. And mostly a few of us go out and maintain it. It doesn't take too much work, a little weed whacking, an occasional chainsaw, but we have plenty of volunteers to do trail maintenance, and sessions are scheduled regularly with our Open Space Advisory Committee, with whom we work very closely. This is a trail called Cushatunk Mountain overlooking Round Valley Reservoir. So very pleasant to go for a hike up in these parts. This is a monthly walk that the Open Space Advisory Board conducts, and EC, of course, we work very closely together. So you can see our shared interests on this one. We're trying to preserve open space. And interestingly, the nice thing about all these trails is that more people are using them now during COVID because they're around. And it's really nice to have them and available. And several people have commented on the high use of our trails. And of course, we couldn't thrive if we didn't have cooperation. And both Ann and Isla alluded to this. We have a very environmentally aware township committee. When I've spoken to a couple of other EC chairs, I've heard that they don't always get the kind of cooperation we do. So that's very nice. The mayor, upper left, is also on the Environmental Commission, and the gentleman on the lower right is the chair of our Open Space Advisory Board. So we get a lot of support. So we didn't have to do very much to promote our plastic bag ban. They jumped right on it. We passed a tree ordinance and a deer hunting program and our water quality issues. I'll come back to that. We also have some very dedicated volunteers, which is great because since I've been an environmental chair, I've learned that I'm fundamentally lazy and love to delegate work to people who are willing to work harder than I am. This is one of them. He's obviously recently become a sustainability hero and kept telling us that we were doing everything in Reddington to achieve silver status, that we just weren't accumulating the data. And he did a lot of legwork to make sure that the data was produced and got us the silver certification. But the township was already doing most of what was necessary. It's just that no one had worked as hard as he did to pull the data together. Among the other things that we enjoy and we do is when the Sandy tree reforestation giveaway came up, we jumped into that in a big way and gave away annually sometimes between $1,500 and up to 2,000 seedlings. What we did was gave 5 to area residents, and we set it up as a drive-through. And we give them to 3rd graders, and we save some to plant. So it's has been a very successful program, but how do we adjust? Well, this was the announcement from the Forest Service that the program was discontinued. We had even gotten from our equestrians, the Reddington Trail Association, who do enormous amounts for us. They had given us some money to get this year's seedlings because they weren't giving them away anymore. But we just didn't, this was too early on in COVID, and we didn't think we could pull it off. But having just done well testing on the basis of that model with a drive-through, handing out and picking up tests, we do think we can pull it off for next year. But speaking of well tests, among the other things that are a major issue, and this has become probably the major focus of our environmental commission, is the amount of surface water that we have in Reddington that needs our attention. There's a gee whiz figure that I had to fact check, and I understand it's quite accurate, that 65% of our residents live within 300 feet of a stream or surface water. So we're wet, and protecting it has become a critical issue.
Neil?
Yes, ma'am.
Neil, I'm so sorry to interrupt. We just had a few people asking if you could close the note portion out and expand your screen.
I didn't realize I had done that. All right, let's try this. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had.
And I'm sorry to stop you like that mid-sentence.
What's up there now?
Still the same. Okay, now you're there. It's you.
Okay, so
Gotta
now
share your screen again.
we'll try this again with a different screen. I'm sorry, I apologize.
No problem.
See if that works. Better?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so
Thank you.
this year, thanks to our mayor, I took up kayaking, and that's the South Branch. So it is a wonderful place when you can kayak in your town and go down your own rivers, and a lot of the land on either side is preserved. So it's very impressive. And the nice thing is we used to have a single pair of eagles, and it's routine to go down our rivers or along our rivers and see multiple pairs now out there. So that's one of the really nice things about having all this surface water. On the other hand, one of our key networking partners, Raritan Headwaters, and I can't thank them enough for what they do for us, their water testing has showed that we need work. If we look at Reddington, and the Star is where my house is, we still have water issues. So this is going to become a major effort, as I've been saying, to get our water quality improved. So in conjunction with our Open Space Advisory Board, this is just an example of how we are now looking at open space acquisitions, not necessarily primarily for watershed protection, but it's right up there. It was never as emphasized as it is now. So near where I live is a stream called Chambers Brook. And so to the bottom right, you'll see it where it says Peters Airport. That's 80 acres of previously preserved land. The next one towards the top left, you'll see the arrow. That's the one where you saw the tick-seed sunflower. That was the gift. The next one over to the left is recently closed, and the farthest one to the left, we're starting to explore those opportunities, and the little yellow star is my house. So you can see how there's a combination of the open space and environmental commission interests completely overlapping. And this is what you get. This is the Lamington River. It's just, we have a lot of beautiful water courses in town. So because of all the water concerns, the original idea was to have a subcommittee, several subcommittees, in fact, of our environmental commission. And the first was this is from the initial proposal, that it would be a joint subcommittee of open space and an environmental commission and work on water improvement. Well, the trouble is with that is we immediately got a quorum and it had to become a public meeting because all of us on EC and other people showed up, created a quorum, and it couldn't be a casual meeting. It had to be formalized. So what happened was they became their own advisory board. It's still in the works. It's not there yet. They've adopted their own name, Reddington Water Watch. That it has its own chairman and it has every area of interest. We just finished well testing. Raritan Headwaters wasn't going to do it this year because of the virus. We went ahead with them and, or actually, I guess they were going to do it, but the expectations were low. I'm sorry, about how many would show up. But out of the couple of hundred we got last year, we got almost that number this year. This weekend, this was what Raritan Headwaters usually does, but because of the virus didn't. But our water committee, subcommittee, Water Watch, arranged a stream cleanup, which will be tomorrow morning. And as far as volunteerism, it's filled up. Everybody that could volunteer is already booked up. So it's, as I say, water issues are big. And of course, the big effort will be getting our stormwater rules appropriate for Reddington. So I couldn't do it without the partners. We got, thanks to ANJEC, who came to an EC meeting, explained to us about the plastics ban. It sailed through. And ours is as restrictive as the states will be. I've already mentioned that Raritan Headwaters helps us out with, does our well testing. Some of us signed up to learn how to do stream monitoring, but they didn't do it. But that'll be next year so that we have these water issues. Because we have a community college nearby, we get a lot of support from them. There's a Professor Jay Kelly there who has set up numerous deer exclosures, pollinator meadows, and rented us his students. And in fact, his students did the tree inventory that we have so that we knew how many ashes we had and where they were. We set up a tree advisory subcommittee because I've been a lifelong tree guy and I figured why not? But it's an unusual town in that there's no street trees as such. This is a typical road. And on the left is what our developments look like. And on the right, when somebody fills out a permit for tree removal, this is what the site often looks like, an abandoned farm. So this is a work in progress. But as I said, we did have the Raritan Valley students do our tree inventory, and we know that we have about 1,700 ashes, I believe, in our rights of way. But we have decided because of the cost just to treat 100 or 110 for the emerald ash borer, to leave those trees mostly as museum pieces so they could see what ashes used to look like. We also have 41 ailanthus trees, but as a lot of you probably know, the spotted lanternfly has already overwhelmed us, and I don't know how we'll manage these ailanthus, these 41, because there's undoubtedly hundreds, if not thousands more. We also have an interesting deer issue, so we created a wildlife advisory subcommittee. And like our Water Watch, has its own very dedicated chairperson. Raritan Valley, Jay Kelly and his students found out that our average deer density is about 136 per square mile over the township. It's higher at my end of town. And the carrying capacity, which I even remember from back at Rutgers, is about a tenth of that. So how does this all work out? The Open Space Advisory Committee, the Environmental Commission, Open Space Advisory Board, the Environmental Commission went to the Township Committee with a plan to open a lot of our properties to hunting, bows, and in some cases guns. It's in its infancy, but after this program was approved by our Township Committee, we've already taken more deer so far this early in the season than we ever did last year. So we're still cooperating. We're sharing our trails, learning for the hunters to share the trails early in the morning and give it up during the day to hikers and equestrians. But so far, there have been none, if any, few, if any, conflicts. And I think everybody thinks this is going very well. So this dedicated subcommittee is one way to adjust and thrive in interesting times. And deer are a bigger problem than most. And of course, as has already been alluded to, we too get grants for pollinator gardens, rain gardens. This is a little artistic license. This is an our rain garden. I just needed a picture because I didn't have one. But this is a tree planting that was, we had gotten assistance from Princeton Hydro for this grant to plant along a riparian buffer. This is one that also one of our dedicated volunteers wrote. You can see this is a horse paddock, and there's gullies that drain right into our stream. And you can see it here coming off the paddock and creating a big delta next to one of our waterways. And you can see there. So I was working on this grant, but between COVID and the site being inaccessible, I was concerned. But we've gotten an extension. And then out of nowhere, we were offered a lot of help by New Jersey Watershed ambassadors, a young man named Cameron McKenzie, who's offered a lot of labor. So we have been saved. So all of these things are going very well. And one of the last things I'll mention is that there are now not just planting and outside green stuff, but Reddington is now getting on the bandwagon for electric vehicle and charging station grants. So that's everything about how what we're doing. So I'll leave you with that comment that I particularly like and my contact information. Have a good Halloween and thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much, Neil.
Thank you very much, Neil, Ann, and Isla.
Really, thank you, Ann, Isla, Neil. That was terrific. Also, thanks to Chris from Atlantic City Electric. At this time, there are a couple people who've typed questions into the chat. So Michelle's going to start reading those. But if attendees have a question that they'd like to verbally ask, so we could maybe have some sharing verbally, we will be happy to have that happen. If you raise your hand, we will then give you the option to be able to speak. So in the meantime, if you have a question or there's a program or a project that you want to share about what you've done, please raise your hand and we will try to get to everybody after Michelle reads a few questions from the chat.
Okay.
Neil, could you stop sharing, please?
I thought I had,
I think you are still sharing.
sorry.
No problem. Oh, I see. I can, okay.
Now it's you, Liz.
No, I'm not sharing.
No?
No.
Okay, so we have, and this is just going to go out to the three of you and whoever decides to answer, it's fine. It's a question regarding Chris Abrupta. Was there a fee for Chris Abrupta's help? And what exactly did the open space grant provide? That's part of it. So we'll address that first. If any one of you want to take that?
Michelle, I can talk from my experience because we had a Sustainable Jersey grant. His fee was included in that. Okay, so I guess you'd have to shoot me if anybody. I have his email. If anybody wants to email him, he's very easy to contact, and he would get back to you. I know for a fact that he has a program where you can actually. This is so cool. This is one of my projects for next year. It's a $5,000 program. However, you can invite residents and they have their engineers come and they look at their site plans. Okay, look at the plans of their house and they tell them whether it's good to do a rain garden. And then there's a fee reimbursement. So they get money at the end of this if they actually construct the rain gardens. I think that's wonderful. And that was also part of the green infrastructure. I also am a green infrastructure champion. So it's all included in that course too. So if you haven't taken it, it's wonderful. And Chris is very funny. If you want to have a few laughs, he will entertain you too.
That's true.
So I can add a little bit. For Evesham was fortunate in that the Rutgers program related to water and green infrastructure actually chose Evesham Township to do a feasibility study for green infrastructure projects as well as impervious cover assessment. So we had 3 documents that we were given courtesy of Rutgers that lays out green infrastructure projects that we might want to undertake in the township, and we've actually are looking at selecting a few of those. Pinelands Preservation Alliance is the organization that recently set up the meeting with Chris Abrupta and ourselves when we were going out and looking at places in the township to look for green infrastructure, and we also used as a guide those documents developed by Rutgers. We also had an MOU with New Jersey Future that allowed us to do some more investigation into green infrastructure projects and helped with the design and engineering work associated with the 2 rain gardens at our MUA that I showed a couple of pictures of. So I hope that's also helpful.
If I could just jump in for a second, the answer depends on which municipality you live in. We work closely with Pinelands Preservation Alliance and so very many other organizations. I couldn't even begin to start to list them all. And Cheryl Reardon, who is on this call as well, works intensively on what Ann and Isla were describing as our landscape makeover program. And so that's a rebate incentive program for constructing rain gardens. We also get funding to do rain garden projects at publicly owned spaces, so primarily municipal complexes. We've also worked at libraries, schools. It depends on what kind of funding we have at the moment. So I'm sorry, I can't be more specific about that, but you can always contact Chris or you can contact us, and we do our very best to kind of match up the funding that we're getting at the moment with the municipality.
Okay, thanks. And I guess if there's any more questions related to that, they could always email the panelists. There's another question regarding, have your municipalities adopted the new stormwater ordinances, especially enhanced ordinances? If somebody wants to take that one.
Well, we're just working on it. Our new Water Watch Committee is all in on it. And they want to get it done, and the mayor has asked for prompt work on it so that it can be acted on because of the infrequency of municipal meetings, so that they could work on it. And so there's nothing finished yet, but it's they're working on it now.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to share on that?
We're in the same position as Neil mentioned. We're educating ourselves and looking at a lot of different things. So
Okay. All right. Thank you. So another question, have any of you found new members by going to the high school environmental clubs or college, trying to recruit new younger members, I would guess?
I think the recruiting part is hard. There's a person I work with at Culver University, and then there's a person at the high school. But I think given the situation that we're in now, I think it's tough. One of the things that I hope to do for the new year is to reach out, have some kind of, we were big on contests. I'm not so sure contests are great now, but think of how to, engage that age group, because they are the people who are going to be, following us, trying to figure out what to do.
And I would say we missed the high school level, but the elementary school and the middle school level, a couple of us from EC sit on their green team. And I'm just astonished at how energetic they are and how much they've done. And we just offer to partner with them in any way we can. That's one. And number two is Raritan Valley Community College. Their students, where we get their talents, and they've just established an entirely new department along these lines, environmental sciences. So we hope to get more from that end. And the watershed ambassadors who are out there, it's not high school, but it's another group of young people that hopefully we can hook into environmental commission work.
Real quick, I agree with Neil that the watershed, find out who your watershed ambassador is and connect with them. They are a great resource as well.
Right, that's one other thing when we can, and at some point we'll have our green fairs again, and town farmers markets also a good way to, especially the green fairs, I think, is to bring in young people when you have your booth, to get young people involved. I know in the Parsippany Commission, and we partner with our library that also helps get the word out to try to get new and younger members active in the EC, or to at least volunteer on projects. So that's one thing you can do.
I was just going to add to that, we get youth members to come to our river cleanups when we have them. And we also, I echo what you were, both Neil and Isla were saying about the watershed ambassadors, because we would have them come to our river cleanup, and then they could educate about the watershed to the people who are coming to, get down in the river and clean it up.
I would like to add to that also with ANJEC, and Jen is much more familiar with this. We had a Girl Scout troop that over 10 years ago, I think it is, started with no plastics. These were young girls that are now like 17 years old. They've come up, there's more of them, and they were very, very involved in supporting the no plastics legislation. And one other group that we found very helpful is the Eagle Scouts, because often they're looking to do projects and they're interested in working with environmental commissions.
Yeah, we had an Eagle Scout project help to do some of the paths in the garden, pollinator garden, and then we have a little library there as a result of an Eagle Scout project. So they're looking for things to do.
Terrific. It seems like we might have lost Michelle, but I'm sure she'll be back. I have another question from Stan. He was asking, I think this would be to you, Neil, but if Anne or Isla have adopted the program, you could also comment. When you adopt electric vehicle programs and produce electric vehicle awareness programs, do you partner with the Electric Vehicle Auto Association?
Not to the best of my knowledge. In fact, it was one of those things. This brings up another challenge for environmental commissions. If the township is not willing to spend huge amounts of money, and you get a grant for $5,000, but it takes $20,000 to implement an electric vehicle charging station. One of the things that the township has made very clear is let them decide what grants are suitable. So what had happened with an electric vehicle. So if you get a grant for $5,000 and the vehicle costs $30,000, then you're getting the township to buy in when they didn't really know. So now just that sort of thing, grants that on electric vehicles, that's new to us, new to me. So I don't think we've partnered with anybody else, but I'd be happy to hear about it. Anything we can do to advance it would be a good thing.
When people are building things, we had the nuns, the Dominicans that are connected to Kabul University, when they built a new facility for their retired nuns, they actually put into the development stage of it an electric vehicle charging station. So that's probably the best. I mean, economically, it's on them, but I mean, when you're starting fresh from new, then that's great to just roll it right into the total cost.
Terrific. All right, I have one other question from Dean, which probably to all three of you. How have your commissioners reviewed site plans when not meeting in person, especially given the large size format of the plans? If it's done on their own or via the Zoom meeting, how effective has that been? Neil, you want to take that first?
Yeah, mercifully, it has tapered off during COVID. But we, for the most part, there are links. There's our municipal building, our people inside have created links to all the documents that we would normally have for an EC meeting. So that I haven't really seen a really large site plan that we've had to review. They were mostly done while we were still meeting in person. So that's fortunate. But the other thing is they did go from attachments, which were massive, to links, which I don't understand the technology except that it works.
I just have them send the packet to the commissioners.
The actual paper packets?
Yeah, well, no, they download the information and send it as a file. And
Doing it,
is it great? No, it's not great, but
right.
I communicate, I get a file, and then my person who sits on the zoning or the planning board gets a file. So we, they have their big picture in front of them, and we talk about it in that regard.
Right.
What we've done on my town, sorry for jumping out, I'm on the planning board, not the EC, but we have had developers provide all electronic plans so that we can review them in advance. And then when we're on the planning board meetings, we can go through the maps one at a time. Like Ann said, it's not great. I mean, I'm a little bit old school in that I do prefer to have big giant maps because I think they're easier to see. But it is a quasi-functional way of doing it.
Yes,
Yeah,
I will say that my dining table, which is rarely used because family doesn't come around, is now papered in site plans.
Yeah, we also use, we also now, it's nice because the links are that we can access, even though they're very large, the site plans and the accompanying documentation. I guess one thing that we sometimes try to do is we have a few areas of expertise on our commission. For example, we have a member of the Shade Tree Commission, also on our Environmental Commission. So it's often just a good incentive to say to that particular person, hey, could you look at the landscaping plan and come up with your takeaways, and then we can present more individualized reports or target certain things at our meetings when we come together to comment and review on the site plans themselves.
Great, thank you. We do have Lee Farnham from Ewing has his hand raised, so I'm going to turn you on to speak, Lee, if you want to address the group either with a question or to share something from Ewing. Lee?
One of the things I was going to say, can you hear me, Liz?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Over the years in the Ewing EC, I've been on it for more than 15 years. And we found that when it came to recruiting new members, we started to look for licensed landscape architects and horticulturists because nobody else in the township had those degrees, and it really increased the amount of attention we got from the planning board, which is of course an advisory committee, whereas the environmental commission the planning board is not an advisory committee. The planning board makes decisions. The environmental commission is advisory only. And we've tried to follow that every time we have a vacancy, is to get somebody who has a specific educational background that can be used particularly in looking at things like site review plans, et cetera, et cetera. It's very useful.
I would only comment that as the only arborist who's in town who shows up at meetings, there are others probably, but I am the tree subcommittee with our code officer for the most part. And when I retired, I wanted to give back, and oh boy, there's plenty to do. So yeah, I agree that I realized that when I was able to be helpful with my own particular expertise. And yeah, we do have others that are really good at water. And then when we don't have those people, in our case, for example, we do have to contact the professionals. And in our case, it's like Princeton Hydro, who will help with stormwater plans, for example, sit in on our meetings, and look over what our volunteers do to make sure it flies at a professional level.
Great.
Hmm.
Does anybody else, any other of the attendees would like to speak? You could raise your hand, which you would just do by hovering over your name, and there'll be a little icon will pop up that says raise your hand. Otherwise, we can, does anybody else have anything they want to share on any of the panelists?
I was going to say that the couple of 3 times that Isla and Ann and I have been on these little Zoom calls, I've gotten so much out of it from learning about their experience and their knowledge. I'm relatively new at it. So I can only say, have more ANJEC meetings, bring us together more, because what I got out of this, just coming up to this point, was tremendous. And you spend most of your time in isolation in your own towns and townships. So the contacts we've had with each other and with you folks has been amazing. So, and I'm not usually prone to superlatives, but I thank you all for what you've done to make this happen.
Thank you so much, Neil. Actually, Annette just popped up a question in the chat again. When you have Princeton Hydro come and review things for you, those professional expert, do they charge you for that service?
Oh, of course.
Okay, I thought so.
There was a negotiation, which is also part of this new committee on called the Water Watch. And they wanted to take on the responsibility. The Watershed Institute has produced a template. Raritan Headwaters has helped. So it's not like there's a lot of it's not like we have to start from scratch. Plus, the original ordinance that Reddington had was remarkably strong because there were visionary people way back, way back, 2007. So what I had mentioned earlier is having Princeton Hydro as a check there. You write a check, you get a check. So to have them make sure the work is consistent with their standards because they're professionals. So rather than have them do it at a considerable cost to the township, we have them as consultants at certain points where our new committee will hit certain accomplishments, get to certain points. They'll give it to Princeton Hydro for review. It'll be cheaper, but we'll still get the professional imprimatur that you'd want. So I think it'll work out very well.
Terrific. Great. Jen, do you have anything you want to close with, or?
Just briefly, I want to thank everybody for being here with us all month long and with our first virtual environmental Congress ever and closing out our 47th annual. So thank you, especially to ANJEC staff who created this new format and I think did a fabulous job as we learned how to cope together with this. We do anticipate for the majority, if not the entirety of the new year, we will be hosting exclusively virtual programming. And so we hope that you will continue to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and check out our website so that we can continue to move forward to protect and restore New Jersey's natural resources, which we know now are more important to us than they ever have been. So thank you, all of the environmental commissioners, for everything you have done. And I hope you have a wonderful Halloween. Happy Halloween. Don't cause too much mischief tonight on Mischief Night. And make sure you vote. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.